We're here with Michael Cowen, and we'd like to know more about you and your company, your background, what got you into film, what your passion in film is. So maybe if you could start by telling us a little bit about you.
All right. Well, my company is Stealth Media Group, which I started 3 years ago to be more in control in terms of sales, production, financing, and also in distribution. In terms of the background, I was going to be a doctor, but I always enjoyed writing, and I wanted to be a famous book author. And I always wrote fairy stories since I was young. I had some published. But I'm dyslexic, so I found it more difficult to write books and easier to write screenplays. And so I ended up going to the London International Film School in the UK, in as a writer, and then I started running a bartering business while I was in, because most producers couldn't actually raise any money and would get turned down after writing a letter to, let's say, Levi's for £10,000, and they'll say they'd used up all of their marketing budget. So one day I'd written to Wrangler, got that type of letter back, called up the managing director and said, look, can you send me £10,000 of Levi jeans, not the cash? So the MD sort of said, well, nobody's ever asked us for that. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll go down Camden, sell the jeans, get the cash, make the short, you get the logo, and if we win, everyone's happy. So with that, 48 hours later, I had boxes of jeans, and for 3 years I ran a bartering business. I was like the go-to guy. Came out of film school, started in the attic of my mother's restaurant, and made my first movie in '96 called The Killer Tongue, about a woman with a talking tongue. Starred Robert England, Pinhead from Hellraiser, and Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead. So from that point till now, I've done about 92 films, from $65 million down to $500. So 96 was my first movie. 97 I wrote one of the first interactive games. Ended up with a $10 million deal with Warner Interactive. So I was in the games business in the early days. Then I was one of the first guys to structure tax funds in the UK, where I raised over £150 million, mainly because I'd made a movie with a fund that was doing that. It was a disaster, you were always chasing them, and so I read an IM and I thought, well, hold on, I can do this, it's not difficult. So put together our own structure, put together a sales team, put together a management group. So the shareholders I brought in were people like Peter James, the book author, who's become very successful. So I've always been very entrepreneurial about the things that I do, but more than anything, I'm passionate about the things that I like to do. What we've done with Stealth is divided it into labels. So we've got Stealth Sovereign for big pictures that would do 2,000 screens across the US. So we've got Mary, which is the prequel to Passion of the Christ, that goes March the 10th, Gummy Bears. Then we have something called Prestige, which are for European and foreign language pictures, which might have selected theatrical releases. So for example, if you were to do Counterfeiters, it's not going to go 2,000 screens across the US. So that means that a movie for a Sonic Classic,
you have to get rid of all the old ones.
Magnolia. Then we've got Adrenaline, which is for genre pictures, and they go from 10,000 to $20 million. I made a movie for $15,000 last year for Post 11. That's made money, and we're doing a second film. But for those type of young directors, young writers, they sign to us for 3 films so that we can build talent with us and see who's around. We're not somebody who wants to do a huge amount of things and be big in any way in terms of like massive companies. We want to be a company that's fun to be with, funky, can do things quickly and enjoy doing things that we want to do things with. Because when you make a movie, it's not like you make it in a week. It's like sort of dating and then getting married.
Depth. Like, you're not just going to get some kind of a film that's not going to be character driven, even though I do see that you've got horrors.
Yes.
And documentaries.
And romantic comedies.
Yeah.
No, it's across the board. Look, you know, I always find it funny when people say, "Oh, I've got to go get a script doctor," or "I have to." It's like, well, excuse me. You know, you can read a book and you can know whether it's good or not. And it's the same with the script. And the more you read, the better it is. In terms of you can make that assumption in a better way. So for me, it's really about, you know, is the concept interesting? Is the story something that you think you want to make? Because all these journeys take time.
I'm interested in mentoring newer talent.
Yeah. Doing it all the time. That's what we're doing with the lower budget movies. Is the talent.
So how would the talent approach you in a way that would be successful and also would be...
Well, as my door is always open, it comes in many different forms. Like even today, 4 people turned up. Right? They've all met at a festival. So one had a comedy that's won, you know, the Texas Festival, blah blah blah. One was an Irish person. And I said, look, here's my cards. Send me the things through to have a look. If they're interesting, we'll come back to you. You know, it's just about being open and with people and communicating. I go to all of the festivals. I produce movies all over the world. It's like 5 weeks ago, I went to St. Petersburg to have a look at 40 Russian movies. I picked up 3 films that were going to distribute in the UK. But you go there to meet producers, look at what new talent's coming out in terms of actors. You know, the same thing in India. You know, you need to be able to see what's going on. And again, what I find funny here in LA, it's like a bubble. You know, the world stops at LAX when they get out, and the world starts again when they get off and they're back in LAX. You know.
We've been noticing that crowdfunding has become a really big topic at the AFM. If someone wanted to work with you, what would they bring you? And would crowdfunding in any way affect the way you would look at it?
No, I have 2 people in my office, so when we do things, we're always doing, in terms of now setting things up, to create, you know, market people, all those things. So, for example, the Artificial Horizon, which is a zombie action movie on a jumbo jet. You know, we raised 100 and something thousand in 3 weeks, and we have a 10,000 fan base that's growing. So everything that we do and start from ground base, marketing it out. You know, so I think that's the future on independent low budget movies. I think that will be one way in which things will go. So the SEIS is the same as the EIS, except it's for startup businesses. Film is, let's say, looked as one, where you can only raise up to £150,000, and no investor can be more than £50,000 as an investment. So in other words, maximum 3 investors at 50 each. They pay no tax at all from any type of profits generated if you make a movie. But they can't take any money out for 3 years. So you're basically just a shareholder. Now for that they get a 50% income tax relief. So if they put £1 in, 50p of it they can write off against other tax that they have, and so they're at risk for 50p. The EIS, same type of structure, 3 years they've got to hold their shares, they pay no tax on any profits that are generated, but they only get to write off 28%.
We have a lot of emerging filmmakers. What advice would you give them? What would you?
Well, I think the future of where we're going is going to be internet, connecting with a fan base, using that fan base because it's worldwide and it's one market. You can test ideas, you can put your script out there to see what people think, you can build people to come with you. And then I think if you're going to do a low budget movie, look at things from the past. You know, Cabin Fever worked really well, for example. And look at those and say, well, how can I make that in a slightly different way or in a more modern way? and then use the internet to enable yourself A, to raise money, and B, create your own market for it. The great thing is that with the internet today, you're on the same level playing field, even if Warner wants to do it or Sony wants to do it. It's the same tool, so it's not as if millions of pounds all of a sudden is going to make your product better to a market out there. If your product's good, they'll connect with it.